Okay, so I'm delighted to welcome today Christine Charles, and thanks very much for coming along for the interview today. And we've not known each other very long, but I seem to recall we connected on LinkedIn as a result of some interesting dialogue that was going on at the time, where we were both emotionally connected to something that we felt strongly about, which was great. And I really felt that you'd be somebody who'd be really inspirational to interview for my Winning Through group, which, as you know, is all about helping bring positivity and beacons of light and inspiration in these challenging times. So, very warm welcome, Christine. And all I will say is that you're normally doing this bit to me. So would you like to share what you now do and how you got there?
Well, first of all, Steve, thank you so much for inviting me to be interviewed. You're absolutely right. We were having a bit of a dialogue just before we hit record. It is strange for me to be on the other side of being interviewed. I'm not sure about inspiration. I like to see myself as bringing inspirational people like yourself to the public through the medium of radio presenting, podcasting, life coaching, interviewing, generally speaking. And we met, yes, you're right, we met on LinkedIn, didn't we? Our good friend Amici connected us.
Oh,
and
that's right, yes.
Yeah, I was having a terrible day that day because I was uploading a load of interviews and mental health content on LinkedIn, and I was getting bombarded with messages. And the lockdown, we were in the first week of our lockdown. So it's a very overwhelming time for many, me included. And I remember I was out for a walk by the canal, my local canal, and the walk was not actually helping because I put my phone on stupidly, and it was just ping, ping, ping. But you were so kind and gracious in your response that I knew. I was like, this is a guy that I've got to speak with and see what he's about, because not everybody is as gracious as yourself when someone's reacting to an overwhelming moment, which is what I was. And my background is that I've been life coaching for over a decade, so I'm not as young as I look. In fact, I've dyed my white hairs for you today, especially. the box dye that I could find in the shops. So I've been personal development, people development, resilience is my area of my niche, if you want to call it, or expertise, as we like to throw buzzwords. And alongside that, I am a radio presenter for the Health and Wellbeing show on Radio Plus Coventry, which is a Christian community radio station. Just in a nutshell, the show was really born 4 years ago when my late father was diagnosed with dementia, vascular dementia. And at the time, I just felt so out of control, a whole raft of emotions, as you can imagine. Suddenly, I wasn't the little girl, daddy's little girl. I was the parent. And so I was out for dinner with my best friend one night, and I was really fed up and frustrated. And it was like, I want to jack this all in. I'm going to give it up and just get a boring 9-to-5 job. And she just kind of said, the radio station that I present at are looking for a new show. Long story short, I met with the station manager, and he said to me, I can't have you life coaching live on air. We would just get into so much trouble with Ofcom. But what we can do is have a health and wellbeing show, which allows you to, contribute a little bit yourself, but bring on experts, qualified experts, who actually cover the whole spectrum of mental health, mind, body and soul. Fast forward 4 years, my father sadly passed away last April, but I've just continued with the show, and it's going from strength to strength. I'll happily say that now. It's took me 4 years, to get there. It's a lot of hard graft, getting up every Saturday, going to Coventry, early mornings, and all the people kind of dealing as well, and the admin dealing, because I literally do everything myself. So
But this
that is
is
me in a
not,
nutshell.
sorry to interrupt,
Okay.
Christine, but I'm sure as you're such a modest lady, this is not just a local radio station we're talking about here, is it?
It's not a life of radio station,
No, I'm
did you
saying this
say?
is not just a local radio station we're talking about here, is it? This is beamed out across the globe.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. So we are based in Coventry, but yes, you're absolutely right, because our listeners can tune in by internet. Um, we have listeners all over the world. Really, we have America, the Middle East, really random parts of the Middle East. We've got China, all over the world, really. We haven't got any in Australia, as I know yet, but plenty in Europe as well. So, yeah, we do, absolutely.
Okay, so I think it's really useful. Bear in mind what we're trying to achieve with the Winning Through group at the moment, just helping people through these challenging times. Christine, explain to me or share with me how the lockdown and everything is that, or how the changing world, shall we say, has affected your ability to do what you were doing without thinking about it, and they've had to change and adapt and everything else.
It's hit me quite hard, if I'm honest. I'm quite an upbeat, positive, optimistic person. That's how people and friends and community would describe me. But part of that is down to the fact that I have so much freedom. I'm in control. So I'm in control of when I can go food shopping. I'm in control of when I socialise. And so having that restriction placed on me has been quite difficult for me. I also live by myself, and I live around the corner from my mum and my brother, and not being able to see them when I want is difficult, especially as we're going through a grieving cycle at the moment. And my mum is quite emotionally vulnerable, although she would never admit that. She's a warrior woman. She's very strong, but also she's hurting. And so as a daughter, not being able to see her every day, give her a hug or a kiss, be cheeky with her, it's been hard. So it's affected every aspect, really, apart from the physical, because I'm still doing my exercising. I've ramped up my healthy eating, so I know that if I don't do that, it will start to affect me in different ways. But yeah, I mean, the first week I had a meltdown. The second week I kept crying. Last week was the third week, and I had a rhythm and a routine. And that felt great. One of the biggest factors that has helped me is being able to set up a home studio to be able to record the radio show.
Well, tell me more about that, because that obviously was completely new territory for you, wasn't it?
It was, absolutely, Steve. And I think that one of the reasons when I was having my meltdown and we first started chatting on LinkedIn, I was getting bombarded and inundated with messages. Your health and wellbeing show, really need it now more than ever. We need to drive this mental health agenda. And I felt very responsible, and it became a burden. And I took that burden and mantle on my shoulders. And physically it was manifesting itself in, I can't cope with this, I feel anxious, it's too much. And once that had built up, I then started to cry to release that. And even ordering my mic, which was the biggest thing, it took a week, because of the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
So everything had it was a delay, and it had a knock-on effect, because I was still getting bombarded with messages. Where's the show? When are you coming back on air? And then, of course, when I got the equipment, the software, and I was set up, it was like, right, content. We've got to do things differently now. How do I do this? And so that was another piece of like, brains that I had to use, really stepping out of, you know, creatively. Speaking to good people like yourself was amazing, because it, you know, knowing that you're putting these videos together to inspire others, it kind of allowed me to have the courage, because I sit behind a mic, remember, people don't see me, and that's my
All right.
comfort zone. So I'm a bit of an introvert. So people were saying we need visual content. And so it was contacting people and saying, can I record you on Zoom? Get that out on our social media whilst I'm picking the pace back up with guests to be interviewed. And that was another battle for me. It was like, oh, Christine, you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone now, and just get on with it, you know, get over yourself in a way, and just start doing this video stuff.
And how do you feel about it now, Christine?
I'm getting there. I'm surrounded by, you know, a lot of love and support. And also I've got a friend in PR who's amazing. And she just kind of, I did an interview with her yesterday, and she rocked up with greasy hair and a hat and a coat. And she was like, this is who I am, Christine. If people don't like it, they don't like it. And you know what? We didn't record that, but actually her saying that gave me permission to go, you know what? It's okay. It's all right if I don't look my best, or I don't feel confident when I look at myself. It's not about me, it's about the content.
Yeah.
And actually, when we brought that up in the interview, it suddenly changed tone into more humour.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm getting there. It's a journey, let's say.
Yeah. So where did you set up your studio in the house?
It's currently on my dining table.
All right.
Or in my spare room. So it just depends what I'm feeling and where I want to escape to, really. So yeah.
So apart from your mic, what other software did you have to bring in?
So the software that we've brought in is related. It's Myriad, which is what most major radio stations use.
Right.
So I had to download that. First of all, I had to check that my laptop had enough space to be able to hold that without it slowing down, which it did, thank God. So yeah, that's the software I'm downloading at the moment, and SharePoint, Microsoft Outlook.
Right. So was it, you know, a fairly seamless transition for you, Christine, or was it really sort of quite scary?
I would say it was the latter. It was scary. It's the unknown. It's, you know, it's finding a rhythm and a routine of these are the days I'm going to pre-record. Praying and meditating, as I'm Christian, has really, really helped. Plugging into prayer groups and saying, guys, this is me, I'm vulnerable right now. And I know there's people in a lot worse situations. And I feel guilty about it. You know, there's a whole guilt aspect as well. But this is me, this is my situation. And just having people hold me and pray and say, it doesn't matter, Christine, we need people like yourself to come forward who've got different situations. That's been a massive help.
When you say you feel guilty, what do you mean exactly, Christine?
Well, you know, last week, the virus started to hit my community members. So one of my really, really good best friends, auntie passed away from the virus.
Oh, dear.
Her cousin went down with it. Her uncle went down with it. I've got people in church who are saying, you know, my uncle, my auntie, my mum or my dad are in hospital and they're on ventilators. It's serious. So it's starting to hit people that I know and I love in my community. And so it becomes very real. I've also got people in my community who are single parents who've lost their jobs, you know, who are self-employed, who aren't going to get the funding until June. And they may not even get it because the government's got to assess whether they can get it. And so for me, I am very blessed. And so these issues are not life-threatening. And that's where the guilt comes in for me sometimes.
Right, but I'm sure you also have a lot of gratitude for the fact that you are healthy and safe.
Massively, massively. That is probably the major thing that has kind of squashed that guilt. And again, that's with meditating, praying, reading the Bible, and just opening the Bible to certain parables and stories that make me go, whoa, okay, I was meant to read this today. Even podcasts, I've ramped that up. I'm listening to more podcasts, and gratitude is the place that I start from every day. Anyway, before this happened, but it's a different type of gratitude at the moment, which is, I can't explain it because it's faith based, and faith isn't tangible, as we know. So yeah.
So
And it's the knowing.
No, carry on. Yeah.
It's the knowingness for me that this isn't going to last forever. It's interim,
Yeah.
and we're never going to get this time back again. So what can I use out of my resilience toolbox that I coach other people with on myself at this time?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a fabulous way of looking at it, Christine. I mean, it's challenging for everybody. I mean, I've got clients who they might have been based from home, doing what they were doing, or even if they weren't, they were office based, but did a bit of remote working. And now all of a sudden they got 2 or 3 kids running around, and their husband, partner, whatever, there as well, and they've got no headspace. So it's different for everybody. But one thing I'm interested in, and obviously, you got your faith, which is great, Christine. I don't know. We're probably going to explore this in another interview, a group interview at some point. But I'm intrigued, or curious, maybe is the word. Where does the faith overlap with, or the prayer rather, overlap with meditation? How do they sort of intertwine? I mean, it's interesting you mentioned them both. I mean, I've started doing meditation this year as a result of starting yoga classes, and I'm hugely grateful for that, because I think it's one of the things that's keeping me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
And we've got recordings we can revert to and play through, just to make us calm and focused and so on. But what is the sort of overlap here? Is there, or do you see there's an overlap? How do you use one as against another? Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, Christine.
Well, it's a fantastic question, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's a fantastic question. For me, it's very separate. You've got meditation, which is part of the New Age movement, which is yoga, mindfulness, etc.
Yeah.
And some of it can filter into Christianity. In fact, a lot of meditation and mindfulness is mentioned in the Bible. When we look at Moses, Abraham, all these prophets, they had to remove themselves from their communities, from life, to literally go away by themselves and just be with God, hear his voice. Meditation for me is all about looking at scriptures. What are the key words that are coming out to me? What are they resonating? And it's switching from my head to my heart. Wow. So again, this is not tangible because it's different for everybody. But for me, I have a lightness in my heart when I'm reading a piece of scripture that starts to resonate with my heart, and I would just simply sit in silence with my eyes closed, sometimes open, deep breaths, and just repeat those words until I know that they're going into my body. And I know that because the real test for me is when I'm doing my chores, cooking, out walking, and those words just come to me out of nowhere. I've been able to remember them, recite them. Sometimes I say them in my mind, sometimes I say them out loud. There's a fantastic psalm, Psalm 91 and Psalm 23, which a lot of preachers are saying, read it out loud for this time, because it's all about protection.
Yeah.
And there's certain key words and sentences from those psalms that when I go shopping, and I'm in public, and yes, I do feel a bit nervous. I'm reciting certain words to to cover me and also make me feel better.
Right. Okay. And I know you said that you've trained as a life coach, and you're actually using some of the tools on yourself to self-coach. Now, I'm intrigued by this, Christine, because I honestly, my belief is that self-coaching is incredibly difficult. For starters, you've got to be amazingly self-disciplined. But it's like most things, it's always easier to coach somebody else than it is to coach yourself, isn't it? So tell me, how do you go about that process, Christine?
It's a journey, Steve. There are times when I can't do it myself, and I have mentors, coaches around me who make me accountable and
Right.
responsible for myself, and they're hand-picked people who work with my personality and character. And what I really like is to be challenged. I like people being direct and challenging me from a loving perspective. People who say, I'm quite harsh when I give feedback. I often wonder, well, what's that about? That's more about you. Why do you feel that you need to be harsh? Because actually you can be direct but come from a place of love and
Yeah.
respect. You don't need to bring people down.
Mm.
So they're not harsh, but they are challenging, if that makes sense. One of the main tools I've been using at the moment is a locus of control,
Right.
which goes back to Maslow's hierarchy, which is
Yeah.
human beings want to feel safe and secure, and they will behave, and respond in sometimes to control that's what they'll do. So that's how I know that, because there's a control that's been placed on me, all of us. That's where my struggle is at the moment. And so what I tend to do is drill it right down. Which parts of my life am I feeling out of control with? Shopping is one. I don't want to queue around people that are,
Don't blame me.
I'm picking up angry energy with. It makes it unpleasant. I don't want to get to the front of the queue where I'm being told I can't shop with my mum. We've got to do it separately. And my mum is looking at me going, what are we going to do? Because then I've got to maintain her, emotions as well as my own, and think of
Yeah.
solutions. But what I can control is the creativity. And I do that with my podcasting, the radio presenting. So I'm a master of my own schedule in my home. That's why I was saying sometimes I work from my dining table. Sometimes yesterday I was interviewing from my spare bedroom, because that made me feel safe and secure and in control. So that is one of the biggest tools that I'm using at the moment. When I deliver workshops and coach individuals, I actually go a bit deeper and ask questions like, what was your childhood like? Where have your habits evolved from? Because that's what I'm finding at the moment. We're having to change habits, aren't we?
Yeah.
That habits make up a routine, and routine is part of the rhythm of your day. And habits are psychological.
Yes.
What you're used to doing automatically, you can't now do in some ways. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I feel like I've gone
Yeah.
on a rant.
So I suppose in summary then, Christine, how would you describe where you are now, which from what you said, I've lost track of time, but we're now is this the fourth week?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Where are you now, both physically, mentally and spiritually, compared to where you were 3.5 weeks ago, or whenever the world hadn't quite changed as we know it?
It's been so the adjustment has been really key for me, and also my perspective. So my perspective has had to change. It can't be the same as it was before. There's also a bit of nervousness for me around, and we've had this conversation, haven't we? We're in a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And we know that once we eventually start to get back to normality, that life's never going to be the same. Things will change, and we don't know what that is. So there's a bit of nervousness that I'm working through around that, and I'm doing that with friends. We're all sharing and talking and counselling each other in some ways. Where I am is it's really about my kind of business tagline for my life coaching is, you reap what you sow. So every day I get up, I pray, I surrender, and I think about what am I going to sow today in myself so I can sow into my community, into my friends, into my family. And yesterday is a perfect example. I had back-to-back Zoom interviews till 3 p.m. I was very talked out by 3:30, as you can imagine. But what I did first thing in the morning during breakfast, I listened to some uplifting music. I prayed, I read the Bible, got myself into a good mindset, and then off I went. And that was me sowing into myself so I could give out to other people and make sure that my energy levels were good. So it's about perspective, and for me, everybody's different. It starts with what am I going to sow into myself today? What needs to be done? Where am I at? And even like as I'm brushing my teeth and getting ready for the day, just assessing in my heart, really. And a friend said this to me a couple of weeks ago. She said, Christine, get out of your head, get into your heart. And I took that seriously. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just live by the heart every day, and just seeing what happens.
Well, I think that's a very fitting place to end on, Christine. And you said to me at the outset, I'm not sure about being inspirational, but I found this both absolutely fascinating and certainly inspirational. And I'm sure what you're doing with your radio station is bringing lots of joy and great benefits in terms of emotions to lots of people around the globe. And I'm sure you're going to get Australia in there as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. And to be honest, I would be very keen to get you in on a group interview where we get a few people together looking at different aspects of the whole area of well-being. So is that something you'd be keen to do?
I'd love that. And, I'm inspired by you, Steve, and what you're doing. So thank you. I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity. And I know we're going to collaborate together again, certainly with the radio show and the Zoom videos as well. So thank you ever so much. If anybody is interested in anything that I've said, get onto Radio Plus Commentary. I also do everyday mindfulness podcasts, which I can send you the links as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Invitation is there for you, Steve, to come on the show. I'd absolutely love that. You're very humble and gracious.
Thank you.
And inspiration. I hold the mirror up to you, Steve. So you take that compliment back.
You're too kind.
Well, likewise.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I look forward to getting those links and so on. We'll put them underneath the video. Okay.
Awesome.
Anyway, most importantly, you stay safe and stay well.
And you, and we'll speak very soon.